Bonjour! Welcome to Tuesday. This is day 17 for us in French 1, and we are reviewing for our test. We have our first test coming up at the end of this week. So before we do anything else in this practice, we want to make sure we know the names of all of our family members because we're going to be talking about our family on our test. So this is the way it's going to work. It says la famille. I'm going to give you the English first, right? My family. And then I'm going to pause and give you some time to say it in French. You can also write it in French on a piece of paper if you want to. Then I will give you the French as well, and I will say it. If you want more time when I've given you the English, just press pause, say it, and then unpause, and then you'll hear me say it. So we'll start with this one. Okay, so my family. Now you say in French. How do I say my family? Okay, my family is ma famille. Ma famille. Now you can pause it to say that after me one more time if you want. Ma famille. Remember, you have the pause button. My grandfather. Mon grand-père. Mon grand-père. My grandmother. Ma grand-mère. Ma grand-mère. My mother. Ma mère. Ma mère. My father. Mon père. Mon père. My brother. Mon frère. Mon frère. My sister. Ma sœur. Ma sœur. Ma sœur. My uncle. Mon oncle. Notice how I pronounce that N. Mon oncle. That's because the O starts with a vowel, so I have to pronounce the N in front of it. Mon oncle. Excellent. How about my aunt? Ma tante. Ma tante. Ma tante. My cousin, who's a guy. My cousin. Mon cousin. Mon cousin. My cousin who's a girl. My cousin. Ma cousine. Ma cousine. My dog. Mon chien. Mon chien. My dog. And we're missing one, so let me see if you can remember my cat. Don't know why it's not on here. My cat is mon chat. Mon chat. So, at the end of this week, we're going to have a test on Unit 1. Now, remember, if there's any of this vocabulary we just did that you didn't remember, you can rewind and go back and play over it as much as you want to practice that vocabulary. Our test on Unit 1 will have two parts. One part is speaking or spoken, and one part is written. So you will need to describe 3 members of your family aloud and in a Google Doc without using any notes. So in a Google Doc without using any notes and aloud in a Flipgrid recording with your notes. That's a little confusing there. 2 parts to it. A Google Doc without using notes to write your description of 3 members of your family, and a Flipgrid recording where you're reading your descriptions of your family. So in the recording, you do not have to say it from memory. You're reading it from your paper. You're reading it from your paper. So let's take a look at what we did last week. Last week, we each made a family tree that looked something like this, right? It said La Famille at the top. And then it had your grandparents. Ma grand-mère s'appelle Madame Valdez. Mon grand-père s'appelle Monsieur Valdez. And then it had your side of the family with your father and mother and brother and sister. Mon père s'appelle Luc. Ma mère s'appelle Lulu. Ma sœur s'appelle Tina. Mon frère s'appelle Jean. And you, of course, are in there too. Je m'appelle Fifi. You also had your aunt and uncle and your two cousins on the other side. Ma tante s'appelle Léa. Mon oncle s'appelle Pierre. Mon cousin s'appelle Daniel. Ma cousine s'appelle Nina. So that's what we wrote last week, basically, right? It was a family tree that looked something like this. Now, yesterday, we wrote 5 little paragraphs. Some of you didn't finish, but that's okay. We wrote 5 paragraphs about our family. 1 each about mon père, ma mère, mon frère, ma sœur, moi, or je. Moi means me, so when you write, you use je to say I, right? Like je m'appelle. We're only writing about 3 people and talking about 3 people on this test. So today you're going to choose 3 of these 5 people to write and talk about when we take our test. However, there's one little rule. You must talk about 1 male person, 1 female person, and yourself. So 1 male, 1 female, 1 yourself. You're going to write 3 paragraphs about each of those people, and you're going to read 3 paragraphs, 1 about each of those 3 people. So what will we say about them? This is what we did yesterday, but we're going to review it a bit now because we're going to be practicing for our test. So what will we say about them? First, we'll introduce them. If it's yourself, you don't have to say, here I am, right? You don't have to say a voici sentence for yourself. But for other people, you do, right? Voici ma mère, voici mon père, voici ma sœur, voici mon frère. You're going to pick 2 of those to be your 2 other family members that you talk about on your test. So first you're going to say that, then you're going to say their name, including yourself. Je m'appelle, il s'appelle, elle s'appelle. So in my family, I'd say, je m'appelle Martha. My first name is Martha. Il s'appelle Daniel. That would be mon frère. And my mother, elle s'appelle Martha. We have the same name, right? Elle s'appelle for her. So my name is, his name is, her name is. The third thing you're going to do is say how old they are, and each person must be a different age. So we have, for example, myself, j'ai 51 ans. I'm 51 years old. Mon frère, il a 30 ans. My brother, he is 30 years old. And if I'm talking about my sister, elle a 35 ans. She's 35 years old. So you need to pick out these numbers that you're going to know while you're studying, so you focus on those 3 because you'll need to say 3 people's ages. Each person needs to have a different nationality too. And while that seems strange for a family, it is in fact possible, right? You can have 2 people, a mother and a father from different places, and then the kids are born somewhere else. It's not uncommon. We're going to pretend that's the case, right? So the 3 examples that I'm giving you are, je suis américaine, il est français, elle est anglaise. And notice I pronounce that T, elle est anglaise. It's just because anglaise starts with a vowel. Don't worry too much about that. Just do your best to say it correctly. Je suis américaine, il est français, elle est anglaise. Remember, if the person is female, you must add an E to the end of the adjective, unless there is already a silent E there. So if you look here, je suis américaine, I put the E because I'm female. Elle est anglaise, I put the E, so I pronounce the S now. Elle est anglaise, because she's female. But on français, it's a guy. It's one guy. Il est français, you don't add an E, because it's masculine, and the masculine form is the most ordinary form, right? So français, the basic form. Oh, fantastic. So let's talk about that sample paragraph that we looked at yesterday, right? We start with voici. Now I've chosen cousin. Cousin is not one of the 5 members we're choosing from, but I use that one just because, I don't know, because that way it has something different to look at. Voici ma cousine. Elle s'appelle Marie. Introduce her, say her name. Voici ma cousine. Elle s'appelle Marie. Elle a 47 ans. She is 47 years old. You can choose any number that you know, but you need to say a number. And when you write it, you must write it out in letters. Elle a 47 ans. And the last one, elle est canadienne. Voici ma cousine. Elle s'appelle Marie. Elle a 47 ans. Elle est canadienne. Notice that with Canadienne, I put an extra E on there because it's feminine, right? Elle est canadienne. And there's an extra N in there too. It's just a weird thing with N's. Do your best to remember that. Elle est canadienne. Super. So for our independent work today, you're going to do a couple things. First, you're going to write 3 paragraphs in your notebook in which you describe yourself and 2 other members of your family. So this should be very similar to what you did yesterday when you wrote on Google Docs, except this time you're writing in your notebook because I want you to have them to study from for the next few days. So you're going to write about yourself, a male member of your family, and a female member of your family. And you're going to say those 4 sentences for each one, saying who they are, their name, their age, and their nationality. After you finish that, and that's going to be on Classroom. Well, it's not on Classroom because it's in your notebook. The second thing we're going to do is go into Classroom, and that will lead us into Flipgrid. And you'll record yourself reading these paragraphs 3 times. So each paragraph 3 times in one recording. So I should be able to look at one recording with 3 descriptions of one person, 3 descriptions of another person, and 3 descriptions of yourself. So that's what we're doing, right? So far we're going to go and write our 3 paragraphs. We're going to practice reading them out loud in Flipgrid. And then for the rest of the independent class time that we have, I want you to just practice reading these paragraphs out loud to yourself. And that way you're going to know them well enough to write them without any notes and read them on Flipgrid smoothly and confidently. So let's go over what our 3 things are. First, we're going to write the 3 paragraphs in your notebook. You're going to go to Flipgrid and record yourself reading them 3 times. And then you're going to spend the rest of the time reviewing these paragraphs and reading them out loud so that you'll really know them well. We're going to review some more tomorrow, which is Wednesday. Wednesday. And then we'll take our test on Thursday. I'm sorry, I'm so confusing you. Okay, so let's go to work. Allons, travaillons. Let's go, let's get to work. And remember, if you get confused, I will be online on WebEx, so you can just chat or just ask a question out loud. You can also send an email directly to me if you are confused.